The best Batman cartoon ever. The Batman from 2004. We all know who Batman is. He is one of the most well-known superheroes and one of the greatest of all time. Whenever you think of dark heroes, you think of The Dark Knight, created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. Although there was some debate there. Batman was created for Detective Comics in 1939 and has been a staple of the company ever since. Because he was so popular though, he has stepped into other mediums like movies, video games, and of course, cartoons. And we all know the greatest of them all, Batman the animated series in the 90s with the all-time depiction by Kevin Conroy. When you read Batman comics, you think of Kevin Conroy. He is the definitive voice. Everyone has talked to death about how great this show is, but I'm here to talk about a Batman show that I think is not only just as good, but possibly better than the 90s version. Enter the Batman from 2004, the Batman cartoon I grew up with as a kid. This was really notable because it was the first animated Batman series since the new Batman animated series, with enough differences to justify its existence. The creators and directors of the show were Michael Guggian and Duane Capazzi, and art direction by Jeff Matsuda, who did Jackie Chan Adventures previously. Along with Matsuda, the entire team behind Jackie Chan Adventures worked on this show. It first aired on Kids WB on September 11th in 2004 on both Kids WB and Cartoon Network for its first 2 seasons before switching over to just Kids WB. Just to spoil it for you right now, this series was phenomenal. Great writing, amazing animation, intriguing storylines, and great characterization for everyone, including Batman. In the Batman animated series, Batman was a pro. He has Robin by his side. He had been doing this for years and years, and he has already met most of his villains. In this Batman show, however, he is just getting his start. People still question whether or not Batman existed, and he had only been doing this for 3 years. No Robin or any other members of the Bat family. And you can tell based on how Bruce is in this series that he is very young and feels like a 20-year-old. While in the Kevin Conroy version, he seemed to be somewhere around 30. This is good because we can do things the Kevin Conroy version didn't do, particularly Batman being inexperienced, making mistakes, and working to become better. The point was to show Batman at a stage where he hadn't been before, the early years. That is the strength of the show, the fact that this is the first time Batman meets these characters, and half the time they are either new characters or reinventions of old ones. I like that this cartoon deals with a lot of Bruce Wayne's personal problems. The best Batman stories are the ones that focus on Bruce Wayne balancing his life with Batman, because most writers just want to focus on the Bat God, and that is how you get lazy writing. To be honest, I didn't really remember this show as a kid because I was a toddler when it started and only watched bits through DVDs, so when I found one of the DVDs while cleaning, I decided to give it a try, and I loved it. The fact that it doesn't get much attention these days is mind-boggling. I mean, it is honestly one of the best DC cartoons ever. Maybe the reason is because it was cast in the massive shadow of Batman the Animated Series, or because it released the same time as Teen Titans, another revolutionary cartoon, but it's time people start acknowledging how amazing this series is. No one talks about how great this series is on YouTube or social media, and it boggles my mind. That is one of the goals on my channel, to remind you why franchises are so well made and showcase a franchise that hasn't gotten much love. That is the goal for today. We are reviewing the first 5 episodes of the show and the rest of season 1 later, to show you how great this show is. With all that said, I'm Rocko from Read More, and let's dive in. Also, consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video. Our very first episode, The Bat and the Belfry, opens with a crime boss sweating in fear as he sits in his office, surrounded by his thugs. The thugs can't see anything but notice a glimmer as a batarang flies past them. The thugs try to attack but are unsuccessful. The crime boss cowers and tries to run away, but Batman easily captures him. I should note, by the way, up until now, Batman was completely hidden, but reveals himself to the crime boss, just so he knows what's in his future nightmares, as he says, "I'm the Batman." Batman here is played by Reno Romano. He's a Canadian voice actor who mostly did narrations for the CW and NBC, as well as the narrator for Curious George. He was brought in to voice Batman, and he does a great job. After this, he did voice a bunch of characters, including Spider-Man, believe it or not. We then get the awesome theme song, the Batman theme song made by U2's The Edge. I love this theme so much. It feels like a serial killer's theme until it builds and builds, and it's just so freaking epic. Especially ending the thing when the only lyrics are, "The Batman." It's just, every time I listen to this, I think, this is Batman, I'm in for a good time. After a job well done, Batman gets in his Batmobile and races home using a series of secret tunnels he mined throughout the city. He returns to the Batcave where Alfred was waiting to surprise him with a cake. Alfred is played by Alistair Duncan. Alistair Duncan had done a lot of work as a Scottish actor, appearing in this, other Batman projects, God of War, and Spider-Man. And the wildest fact I found about him was he was almost the lead character Duncan MacLeod in the Highlander Highlander series. Now, of course, that eventually went to Adrian Paul, and Alistair would appear as an immortal on the show, but can you imagine? Yes, I love Highlander, and maybe we'll cover it someday. The cake is to celebrate his anniversary as the Batman, 3 years ago tonight. Batman makes a wish on the cake, and Alfred knows that he wished his parents were here. The next morning, Bruce is watching the news where the Gotham Police Chief Rojas is giving a statement that there is no Batman. He is an urban legend. Chief Rojas is played by Edward James Olmos. He has a ton of credits in TV and film, and while he is accomplished and does okay with what he is given, Chief Rojas is a nothing character. He exists to be a mouthpiece for the police not liking Batman, nothing more. He is the stereotypical angry commissioner, and he's the only character I did not miss when he disappeared. Bruce says that being a legend is how he likes it, under the radar, while Alfred brings up that Bruce is attending a basketball game in order to keep up appearances. And if you're wondering, they are the Gotham Gators. I'm sorry. At the police station, Rojas is telling Detective Ethan Bennett that he needs to nab Batman with his new partner, Detective Ellen Yin, formerly from Metropolis PD. Ethan Bennett is played by Steve Harris. He appeared as an actor on Law & Order and a bunch of other live-action shows, mostly dramas, while Ellen Yin is played by Ming-Na Wen. She voiced the character of Mulan as well as the bounty hunter in Mandalorian, and out of the whole cast, she is probably the most Hollywood famous, as she appears in a lot of big Hollywood productions. And yeah, I know Ellen Yin looks exactly like Eliza from Gargoyles, and yes, I've read that was intentional. By the way, Gargoyles is great if you were wondering. Now you might be asking why there are multiple original characters in the show, and why some characters like Robin or Jim Gordon either never show up in the show or show up late. The reason why is because during this period, the Bat Embargo Act was in full effect. Basically, the rules of the Bat Embargo Act was that they limit DC characters' use in projects. So Riddler, for example, could only be used in one series at a time. This was designed to make it so characters aren't overused. That's why some characters don't appear in the Batman, because they're being used somewhere else. And why in Teen Titans we never see Batman or any of the other heroes, because they're being used somewhere else. I don't know if it's still in effect today, but it does explain a lot here. Scarecrow, Ra's al Ghul, and Two-Face were restricted from appearing in this series because they were going to be used in the Christopher Nolan trilogy. That night, Bruce is getting ready to leave when Alfred reveals a nifty new Batwave, an app on the phone which alerts him to crime picked up in the area. This is definitely the most technological Batman, by the way, with the Bat vehicles, the Bat computer, and the Batwave being so high-tech, much more than any other version we've seen before. We then venture to Arkham Asylum, where an orderly is checking the cell. He is confused though when he sees somebody in the vacant cell. He goes in and sees that the Joker broke in, and he gasses the orderly. Before that, the orderly also says Steiner is in this cell, which I like to think is a jab at Scott Steiner, a pro wrestler who's a little bit nuts. I love this version of the Joker. I love his design, his voice, and the way his character is portrayed in the show. I also love that sometimes instead of a suit, he wears this straitjacket thing. It's a great design choice. I'm gonna be honest though, he was a bit too much to swallow at the start, since this version looks so different from any other Jokers before him. And he's honestly great though. He's played by Kevin Michael Richardson. He was on Gravity Falls, Mortal Kombat, Transformers, Family Guy, and so many other shows. You might also know him as the voice of Trigon in Teen Titans, as well as the frickin' Shredder in the 2012 Ninja Turtles. Ethan and Yin, meanwhile, are going over the Batman case. No one has seen him, and he has a lot of money since all his stuff is custom. They then get a report that someone broke into Arkham, and they go to investigate. At the basketball game, Bruce is doing the billionaire thing of having beautiful women with him everywhere. But this is when Bruce gets a Batwave alert, so he calls over his car with his phone and suits up to go. Also, something to note in this series, what's up with the sky? The sky turns blood red at some moments and into so many other colors like purple or dark green. What is going on? This is one of my favorite Batman suits. It's the slick and classic design, but with the long cape and sharp fingers on the glove. On the bridge of Arkham, Joker is doing his thing and blowing up bridges, but Batman doesn't mind as he uses a grappling hook to get across. He walks through Arkham, but when he finds the orderly, Batman sees that he has a Joker smile on his face, which now haunts my dreams. Joker then shows up while clinging to the wall like Spider-Man. Yeah, this is so cool. It's Batman meeting the Joker for the first time. And yes, I know this has happened a few times before, but this was extra special because this is a young Batman encountering his first ever supervillain, which also happens to be his nemesis. Joker is great, by the way, as he swings around like a psycho. Batman is not in the mood for games and tries to wipe the makeup on his face, but that's just his skin. Joker tries to gas Batman, but he's Batman, so he stops him. Joker mentions during this he wants to turn this place into his new hideout, but Batman, in a moment that defines the character, says Joker's sick and he needs help, offering a hand to help him. Joker refuses, obviously, when Ethan and Yin arrive on the scene and decide to swim across the bay. Batman and Joker then get into a fight, and I have to say the animation animation is so good for these fight scenes. I may not mention how fights are choreographed in these reviews because they are hard to explain, but just know I cannot put into words how well this is animated. Joker gets away, however, and leaves Batman with another jack-in-the-box that he used to blow up the bridge, but this one wasn't a bomb, it was a joke. The detectives make it to Arkham and split up to find Batman, and Ethan actually sees him out the window and tries to arrest him, but Batman grapple hooks away. What is that hook attached to? Back at the Batcave, Batman leaves the orderly who was gassed in the care of Alfred to try and help him. The next morning, Alfred learned that the orderly is okay, but he is paralyzed for now, and Bruce thinks his Joker gas could make an antidote. He thinks back to his fight with Joker and realizes that if he finds the Joker's old hideout, he can find him. This is when Ethan shows up to the manor, but it's just a fake out as they are high school friends and basketball teammates. Now, apparently this is controversial. Batman plays basketball? I don't really see the issue. Why can't he just have hobbies? Did everyone think he was a golf kind of guy? Ethan talks to Bruce about his encounter with Batman, and he thinks that Batman isn't a bad guy, he's here to help, but he's on the wrong side of the law, and the heat is on Ethan to take him down. All of this sets up the ongoing story between these two that will come to a head in the finale. Right now, however, Batman has found what he thinks is Joker's hideout. It's a party favor factory, and Batman was right as Joker was standing there. Joker says they are linked, comedy and tragedy, two sides of the same coin. Batman doesn't care about this and just wants to know where the gas is, but Joker takes off with his hot air balloon filled with the Joker gas. Joker's big plan is to pop the balloon with Gotham statue's sword and fill the city with Joker gas. The detective gets wind of what is happening and head out as Joker is again jumping around like Spider-Man and hanging upside down. Every fight scene is so good, seriously, it is like adrenaline has been injected into your veins. They are so well done. The physicality in this season is insane. The fights are unbelievable despite this being an action show on Cartoon Network. Normally they would get upset about seeing a punch. The theme that you will see with the villains in this show is that they are altered vastly from their previous incarnations. That was intentional because the creators felt like most of the Batman villains from the original comic strips were really just altercations of typical crime bosses. They wanted to separate this from crime dramas and make it more like a superhero show, which is why the villains are a bit more animated and supernatural in nature. Batman is in hot pursuit of the balloon and catches up to Joker, and they have another epic fight as the detectives follow. Ethan puts it together and realizes the clown is responsible for the Arkham break-in, but Yin doesn't really care and wants to take them both in. Joker actually has Batman beat, but Batman uses a grapple hook to move the balloon out of the way of the sword. This enrages Joker as Batman gets the upper hand and pulls down the balloon with the Batboat. Batman captures the Joker and releases the Joker gas into the river, dissipating it, as well as create an antibody for the orderly. The first episode ends with Joker locked up in Arkham swearing revenge against the Batman. Okay, rankings for this. How do my rankings work? Well, there are 4 criteria for my ratings. First is characterization. How characters are depicted factors greatly into the ratings. If they are clearly defined and showcased, then they rank higher. Second is story. How the story progresses from start to finish factors into the ratings. If it's dynamic and interesting, it gets a high score. If it's plotting and boring, it gets a low score. Third is entertainment. How fun something is plays a big part. If you're not enjoying what you're watching, there's no point in viewing. Fourth is importance. How necessary is it for you to watch? In our new world of streaming and rewatching, there's too much to watch. If something is noteworthy, it gets a high score. If it's something you can live with missing, it gets a low score. They will be judged in 5s, 5 being the best and 0 being the worst. However, on certain occasions, if I think something is truly noteworthy, I will go above or below certain parameters. If I think something is exceptionally good, I will give it a 6 or higher. If I think something is exceptionally horrendous, I will go lower than 0. Characterization gets a 4. Everybody is super strong in this. Yes, some characters are a little bit off and we need to learn a bit more about other characters, but it's still really fun. Story gets a 4. It's just the classic Batman story. Batman trying to stop the Joker, trying to do something evil. Entertainment gets a 5. It is so much fun. I'm not kidding. It is so much fun. The first episode just really hits you in the face. Importance also gets a 5. It is the very first episode of the Batman and the introduction to his series. You must watch it. Continuing on, we head into episode 2, Traction. We open with a subway meeting between some mob bosses complaining about Batman taking down their operations. This is when another mob boss shows up and says he has the solution. He says he found a mercenary who has gone under physical enhancements, Bane. They aren't sure about Bane, but he shows off he can do it. Bane is played by Joaquin de Almeida. He was an actor for TV and film, and the most notable role I found him was the bad guy in Fast 5. He never comes back to voice the character of Bane though. This is his one and only appearance. In future appearances, he is voiced by whoever they had on hand to record some grunts. I have no idea why Bane never came back or why they never used him properly again. At the Batcave, Bruce is testing out some new robotics while jamming out to some rock and roll. Alfred asks what Bruce is doing, but even he admits he's not sure what this machine does. Bane's plan to bring up Batman is to attack an armored vehicle. Batman was alerted to this and drives up to investigate. Yin and Ethan also gets the same alert. When Batman shows up, Bane is waiting and they have a fight. This fight is great as always, but Bane gets the upper hand as he uses his enhancements to grow his muscles, and I am not a fan of this design. I really like the black mask look where you couldn't see his face, although my favorite is the luchador mask because I'm a massive wrestling fan, but this is just silly. He has yellow fluid now instead of lime green, which is a downgrade. He's got goofy, oversized chompers. His skin turns dark red for no reason, which doesn't fit Bane. Maybe it's because the blood in him is overwhelming, but it's not a good look. Batman is able to use his agility and gadgets to avoid him, but it only slows him down as Bane breaks the bat, throwing him into the stone wall. Bane doesn't even bother with the money because now that Batman is out of the picture, all of Gotham belongs to him. And this is a good time to mention Bane in this is not great. Maybe it's because he didn't get a single proper appearance after this, but he's just kind of a fight-crazed monster. None of the genius charm he had in the comics. If they gave him more time, he could have developed, but they just don't for some reason. Batman, meanwhile, is not dead, but he definitely has a concussion and broken bones, as well as mastering the Yamcha pose. He calls Alfred for help, but he's in trouble as Ethan and Yin show up. They deduce that if Batman was thrown through bricks, he couldn't have gone far, as we see he is above them. How he did that with a concussion and broken bones, I have no idea. Yin figures out that if someone checked in the hospital with broken bones, then they are definitely the Batman. Alfred shows up and puts Batman in a limo, and he wants to go to the hospital, but he stops when he realizes the cops are waiting. They go into the Batcave where Alfred is lamenting how being called to pick him up has never been a good sign. We flash back to the day Batman was born. Well, a few hours after that, in a much welcome new scene. Bruce is waiting at the police station crying after his parents were murdered. He was playing with his mother's pearl necklace as the gunshot sound echoed with the pearls, in a very cool sound design choice. An officer, presumably Jim Gordon, but I'm not sure, says Alfred is here to see him. Alfred says he is so sorry, and even though he knows he will never replace his parents, Alfred will never leave Bruce's side. I absolutely love this. It is a great character-defining scene for Alfred and shows why he is such an enduring character. He raised Bruce as a surrogate father and took a vow to always be beside him, even at his worst. Meanwhile, Bane has been on a crime spree, taking whatever he felt like as the police assume Batman is dead. Bruce realizes that the police can't handle Bane and wants to go after him, but Alfred disagrees. Another great character moment for Alfred when he proposes that maybe if the Batman couldn't stop Bane, then maybe it's time Batman stayed dead so Bruce Wayne could move on. Bruce thinks otherwise though as he gets out of bed to work on his robotics to try and stop Bane. Alfred has had it though and says if he wants to fight Bane again like this, then he can find another butler slash physician slash getaway driver. Bruce says he understands as he continues to work. This is when Alfred helps out when he knows Bruce can't do this alone. I like this. On one hand, he doesn't want Bruce to get hurt. On the other, he knows Bruce needs to do this for not only honoring his parents' memories, but also to make sure no kid ever goes through what he went through again. Bane is back on another crime spree, and Yin, for some reason, goes in to stop Bane without any backup. She shows up with a dinky pistol and just tells him to put his hands up. Like, what was your plan, Yin? If he can bench press an armored truck, what were you gonna do? This is like an ant trying to take down a cat. You stand no chance. Bane is about to kill her, obviously, when Batman shows up in the coolest armored mech you've ever seen. Bruce is piloting the Batbot as the two have an awesome wrestling match. While Batman can match Bane now, the Batbot has its limits as Bane starts ripping into it. This is when Ethan shows up and helps Yin as Bane gets the upper hand and is about to unmask Batman. But this is when Batman electrocutes Bane's venom, which stops him finally. Bane is thrown in jail as Yin is in the hospital, still determined to catch the Batman even though he saved her life, as Batman rides off to fight some more crime. Alright, second episode here. Characterization gets a 4. Everybody's still super strong. The only weak point is Bane. Other than that, everybody is stellar, including Alfred. Story gets a 4. It's a nice story. It has great character dilemmas. Again, Bane is the weak point, but who cares? It's just so much fun. Entertainment gets a 4. It is so much fun. The wrestling match between the Batbot and Bane is so cool. Importance gets a 5. It is such an important character moment for Alfred and really defines their relationship. I mean, technically you could skip this if you really wanted to, but you shouldn't. We then head into episode 3, Call of the Cobblepot. So naturally, this is about the Riddler. An elderly rich woman is at her apartment drawing a bath when suddenly a bird flies in and steals her expensive necklace. The police then arrive to investigate, mentioning that there have been multiple robberies just like this, and they have left no trace. This is when Ace Detective Batman shows up and finds there was a trace, claw marks on the desk as well as a feather. The cops come back as Batman grapples out of there, and even Ethan was impressed by that. Back at the Batcave, Bruce realizes it was a rare owl native to China who stole the necklace, but Alfred says that Bruce has a gala charity event tonight that he has to attend to keep his secret identity. Turns out this red carpet gala event is actually just a rave. I'm not kidding, there are flashing lights like we actually see a club, but outside it's a red carpet thing and there's a whole paparazzi. It's weird. The paparazzi don't know what to make of the next guest though, the Penguin. The Penguin is voiced by Tom Kenny. Tom Kenny is the voice of SpongeBob, and while that is his most notable role and the role he would probably be remembered by, he has voiced so many other great characters. I mean, he voiced Starscream, Spyro, and the frickin' Ice King. He does not get the credit he is due. His version of Penguin in the show, by the way, is the absolute best. This is my favorite version, and the version everyone should look to when writing the Penguin. Because the way they wrote him was like an anti-Bruce. Like how Joker is the anti-Batman, Penguin has it out for Bruce Wayne, because Bruce has everything Penguin believes he should have. He also shows up with these kabuki girls, and I don't get it at all. I mean, the goal of this series was to get away from gangsters and make them supervillains, so the common thugs had to go, but they just don't fit Penguin's aesthetic at all. They're just so bizarre. They don't speak, they act very creepy, and I have no idea what the creators are riffing off here. Cobblepot makes his way to the party as he introduces himself to Bruce Wayne. He says they have a lot in common as they are both young billionaires, but he gets distracted by a beautiful woman with an expensive earring. While Bruce has never heard of the Cobblepots, Alfred has. He says that his grandfather was their butler, and it was terrible. The Cobblepots were horrible people and treated him like he was a slave before firing him. Those traits carried over as the girl he was creeping on slapped Cobblepot in the face, who Bruce goes after. While outside, Bruce sees that Ethan and Yin are there, and Bruce meets Yin for the first time. They're on the lookout, but they're terrible at it as the girl Bruce was talking to gets attacked by a bird. Back inside, Alfred checked the guest list and realized that Cobblepot is not on it and tells him to donate or get lost. Cobblepot throws a roll of ones at him and storms off, saying he is a cut above even the Wayne. Like I said, he's my favorite. Not only does Tom give this guy a great energetic voice, but his rivalry with Bruce Wayne just makes him a great foil. And he has just so many great lines. If I listed them, we'd be here all day. Alfred remembers that the Cobblepots lost all their money and left England, which confuses him as to why Cobblepot was back. Alfred then realized Penguin stole his serving tray and he is not going to take this lying down. Bruce suits up in the Batmobile as he wants to stake out where the birds are going, and a whole flock of them are flying carrying jewelry. He follows them on the coolest glider you will ever see, and it leads into the Kabuki girls loading up the jewelry in a truck. They have a fight where they take off their robes and reveal these red suits with bladed fingers, and I don't know what to tell you. The fight is epic, however, as they have crazy movements to help anticipate Batman. They ride off with the jewelry as Alfred arrives at the Cobblepot Manor to find it in ruins. He finds his serving tray as Cobblepot returns with pizza. Bruce figures out it's Cobblepot doing this as the crime is similar to what happened across Asia, and he used Bruce's guest list for tonight's crime spree. Cobblepot is chowing down on some za when Bruce calls Alfred, starting a chase where Alfred finds himself into a bird sanctuary. Cobblepot asks what he's doing here, and Alfred says he came to reclaim his serving tray, and that the days of Pennyworth serving Cobblepots are over. Cobblepot says that he doesn't care, and the Cobblepots will rise again. He will restore the Cobblepot's name. I really like that they gave motivation to Penguin. A lot of the time it's always just about money for villains, but he has a legit reason to want as much money as possible. He used to live the good life, and he wants to restore his family's dignity. Now that you know Penguin is broke, I must ask why the Kabuki girls work for him in the first place. Maybe it's for the stolen money, but I just have no idea what their deal is. This is when Cobblepot reveals he has been the one stealing as the Kabuki warriors restrain Alfred, saying that his birds are starving for some meat. Just as the birds are about to attack, Batman dives in to save him, using his sonic device to get rid of the birds. Batman easily captures the Kabuki girls but loses track of Cobblepot. This is when Cobblepot calls himself the Penguin, saying he is a flightless bird but one with style. This is when we see Penguin knows Kung Fu, and that his umbrellas have some special gadgets in them. He is agile for a fat guy, flipping all over the place to avoid Batman. Their fight is way cooler than you thought it would be, as Batman eventually gets the upper hand and knocks Penguin down. Alfred frees himself as Penguin tries one last time to attack Batman, but Alfred throws a serving tray at Penguin before the seed cage drops a mountain of seed on him. The next day, Bruce and Ethan are shooting some hoops, calm down internet, before Ethan reveals, despite what the press say, Batman stopped the Penguin. The episode ends with both of them wondering, do the freaks bring out the Batman, or does Batman bring out the freaks? This was such a good episode. Characterization gets a 5, everybody's super strong, even Penguin, we have such a strong motivation for him, wanting to restore his family's honor and getting back to the good life which he once loved. Story also gets a 5, it is just such a strong story and a good narrative with Bruce and Penguin bouncing off each other. Entertainment gets a 5, it is so much fun, especially the fight between Penguin and Batman. It is surprisingly really good, like I thought it would suck, but it's really fun. Importance gets a 4, like you could technically skip this one if you pulled my arm enough, but I wouldn't skip this. It's really fun. Continuing on, we have The Man Who Would Be Bat, episode 4. Let's go. The detectives Ethan and Yin are hot on the trail of Batman, who just stopped some thugs. Ethan questions this as he helped them, but Yin is determined to catch him. They thought they lost him, but they see some bats are fleeing the scene and into Wayne Industries. The next day, Bruce is visiting the office where Ethan and Yin are waiting. Ethan accuses him of being Batman, but it was just a joke. Yin says that they have a lead, which is when Bruce leads them into the lab of Kirk Langstrom, a scientist researching hearing. But Bruce is confused because of the bats in his room. This is when Kirk shows up. He says he knows nothing about Batman, but shows an interest in bats. Man-Bat is played by Peter MacNicol. Peter is an actor and voice actor. Notably, he did the voice for Dr. Octopus in Spectacular Spider-Man, which I will cover one day hopefully, as well as voicing the Mad Hatter in all of the Batman Arkham games. Bruce is mad though because he wasn't updated about Kirk's research with the bats. I'm not sure why, maybe it's because he doesn't want the police snooping around or Kirk is unreliable, but he stops when Kirk says he does all this for his 3-year-old niece. Kirk promises he is on the verge of a cure for deafness. Alfred later asks why Bruce did that, and it's obvious Kirk told him a sob story. Turns out that sob story was complete bull, as when Bruce visits the girl Kirk claimed to be his deaf niece, it turns out she can hear just fine, which does not make Bruce happy. Bruce goes back to his lab where he finds out Kirk isn't curing deafness and instead is looking into the Batman, which contradicts what he told the police. Kirk says a pretty boy can't understand, but he says he wants to be like the Batman, to be feared. Kirk takes out a vial and transforms himself into the Man-Bat. I really like this look for Man-Bat, although I am partial to the brown furry Man-Bat, but this one is still a terrifying monster. Man-Bat lashes out against Bruce, who is able to lock Man-Bat inside of a lab freezer. Man-Bat isn't in there for very long, however, as he breaks out and flies away. Bruce summons the Batmobile to go after him, but when he runs outside, he sees Ethan and Yin. Yin says she didn't buy the innocent act and wants to look around despite protests from Bruce. Ethan and Yin are insistent, but fortunately they get a report about Man-Bat. Alfred tells Batman that Man-Bat has been going around sucking the blood out of animals. Batman is hot on his trail when he tackles Man-Bat, forcing the monster to go where he wants to go. They fly around the city in a very well animated scene before Man-Bat has Batman cornered, but he transforms back into Kirk. Batman pleads with Kirk not to do this, but Kirk is obsessed with being feared. He says that with 2 more doses of the formula, he will transform into Man-Bat permanently. Batman stops him from drinking another vial, and he runs off as Ethan and Yin arrive. Yin catches up to Kirk and cuffs him as he drinks a vial. Batman shows up to prove he's not Kirk, but this is when Man-Bat returns. Man-Bat grabs Ethan and takes him as Batman puts a tracker on him. Batman chases after him in the Batmobile, calling Alfred to wake him up at 5 a.m. Jeez, I hope Bruce pays him well. He asks Alfred to prepare a few things as Batman continues the chase with some more great animation. They really put some money and effort into this episode. Batman figures out that Man-Bat went into the sewer to avoid the sunlight, so he chases after him. Ethan has been gooped up as Man-Bat hears the Batman coming. Batman gets Ethan down, but Man-Bat ambushes them both, and we're about to find out who the better Bat was. Batman uses his glider to keep up with Man-Bat as they race through the sewers up until Batman gets the upper hand with a sonic device. This causes Man-Bat to freak out because bats use their ears to see, and Batman floods the sewers. Man-Bat floats down the sewers as he transforms back into Kirk, but is unable to escape as Yin and Ethan arrest him. Ethan did mention how Batman saved him too. Later, Ethan and Yin go back to Kirk's lab to collect evidence, but Bruce got rid of all his stuff, probably to make sure no one recreated the Man-Bat. When asked about this, Bruce says he likes to think he helps with police investigations. We end the episode with Kirk writing down his formula on the walls of his cell in Arkham, saying that the Man-Bat will rule. Spoilers, he does not. Characterization gets a 5 for me. This was just a solid episode and everybody plays their roles so well. Even though Kirk is not the most interesting, he's still a fun antagonist. Story gets a 4. It's a fun Man-Bat story. What else do you want from it? It's just fun. Entertainment gets a 4. Just everything with Batman chasing Man-Bat through the sky and them gliding through the air. It's just so stunning. It's amazing. Importance unfortunately gets a 2. I mean, you could technically skip this one. Man-Bat is not really that important a bad guy, and this doesn't really play into much. So you could technically skip this one. Here we are, my friends, the very last episode we're looking at today, episode 5, The Big Chill, featuring our favorite Frost Boy. We start on a cruise ship outside of Gotham, and they run into an iceberg in the middle of a heat wave, because this is where we meet Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze is played by Clancy Brown. Clancy Brown is a legendary voice actor, because if you watched anything from the last 30 years, he was probably in it. He is such a great actor. The amount of roles he has had are insane. He was Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob, Lex Luthor from Superman, the animated series, Taskmaster in Marvel Spider-Man, and my favorite, the Kurgan in Highlander. No pun intended, Mr. Freeze is so cool. Just the awesome voice and with the best design Mr. Freeze has ever had. We'll get into character stuff later, but this guy is one of my favorites. He instantly freezes a party boy when he demands all the jewelry they have, while demonstrating he can easily break ice with his heat sword. At the Batcave, Alfred says he should take a vacation in the Alps for skiing, although he can't ski just yet because he has to suit up and investigate Mr. Freeze. He races there as the police investigate the scene. They somehow unfroze the guy, even though I'm sure he should have died in 3 minutes from a lack of oxygen. Ethan and Yin say the trail's gone cold, but Batman uses his infrared to follow the footsteps. Mr. Freeze, meanwhile, is still robbing. He does keep himself busy, 2 jobs in one night. He also loves diamonds, as that is what he really wants. Batman shows up to stop him though, and Mr. Freeze says he has been looking forward to their reunion. He turns the place into a snowstorm before using his ice powers to overwhelm Batman. He also says he was going to kill Batman, but Batman hits his ice helmet with a batarang. When Batman holds him up, he realizes it's Victor Freeze. Mr. Freeze freezes Batman as Batman remembers where they met before. Way early in Batman's run, he was chasing after Victor while he had stolen some jewels. He was determined not to get caught, but his car flipped out when he almost hit a homeless man. Victor managed to get out and run into a cryogenics lab where they were testing out the power of freezing people. Victor tried to fight off Batman, but he's Batman, so his diamonds fall and he goes in after it, but he falls into a cryogenic tube and gets electrocuted at the same time his cells froze. Victor questions if he was still amongst the living, but when he got out, he realized he was neither a monstrosity. He forced an expert in the field to help him build a suit so he could control his powers. While he doesn't mention it, we see his wife Nora in a photo strip he has with him. I don't know if they wanted to do more story there, but man, they should have. I love Mr. Freeze so much. Give me a Mr. Freeze episode any day. Also, in this one, his name makes sense. In the animated series, he's a doctor, so why didn't they call him Dr. Freeze? Here, he's not a doctor. Now, you're probably wondering, why didn't they just recreate Mr. Freeze from the animated series? Let's face facts. Batman the animated series is legendary. You are not going to do a story better than them, so why even try? I much prefer them doing something different than rehashing something already done to perfection. I mean, the idea that Batman created Mr. Freeze and ruined his former life just creates a great dynamic. Yeah, his motivation of wanting to be rich is kind of lame, but who cares when the character is so great? That is the only problem though. Whenever he does return, we don't advance his story. We do normal criminal things. This is a reoccurring problem with the show though. They don't really develop their villains that much. So as much as I love the Batman, the show is weak in following up their great setup. Mr. Freeze does thank Batman for giving him power though, but he is ready to say goodbye. Ethan and Yin then show up, but Freeze gets away, leaving Batman for the police. Yin wants to unmask Batman, and while Ethan is curious, he says it doesn't feel right because Batman got here by trying to stop Freeze. While Yin agrees Batman means, well, he's still a vigilante, and that means he is a criminal just like the rest. Batman manages to get free because he's Batman, and escapes down the slide just like Mr. Freeze did. Bruce is resting near the fire where Alfred confirms he is sick. Bruce blames himself for creating Mr. Freeze. Yin was right, the Batman is just hurting people. He says that maybe it's time Batman just took a permanent vacation. This is why I like this version of Batman. He is very much not a quiet brute in this one. He often confides in his friends and Alfred about how he makes mistakes or is afraid or doesn't know what to do, and you feel great when he does come out on top. It just makes him so much more relatable and compelling. Freeze, meanwhile, makes more ice puns as he robs store after store and even gets revenge against the homeless guy who caused his car crash. Bruce is convinced he's just a criminal like all the rest, and while Alfred wants nothing more than for Bruce to hang up Batman for his health and happiness, he reminds Bruce why he's doing this. Bruce looks at a photo of his parents and he has a flashback to the night he lost them. This time though, Joe Chill took his name seriously as he became Mr. Freeze and froze his parents. This is all a dream though, and this is the Batman actually hitting us with some subtlety, because his promise of being Batman was to make sure no little kid ever lost his parents like he did, and if he leaves Freeze alone, more kids will lose people important to them. Bruce is determined as he says the Batman is needed, while Alfred has prepared a new suit that can stand the cold. Great design, but it is just a white bat suit. Freeze has set up a base in the park, freezing out the police while Batman busts his way in. Freeze is bawling as he sits on an ice throne surrounded by diamonds and his frozen victims, who I assume are very dead. Freeze thanks Batman again for creating him, but Batman says he put himself on ice. Bats didn't tell Victor to become a criminal. Crime doesn't pay, and he should have learned that. Batman is prepared for Freeze this time, as well as his many ice puns when they fight. Freeze says that he will be the Emperor of Gotham, but Batman has other plans as he calls the Batmobile. Batman also has flamethrowers in his suit, which is cool, but then he drops ice all over Mr. Freeze, finally beating him. The episode ends as, while looking down at him, Ethan admits while Batman may be a criminal, he's the kind of criminal he can get behind, ending the episode. This was the best episode so far. Characterization gets a 5. Everybody's super strong, including Mr. Freeze. This is his debut and his best episode. Story gets a 5. It is such a compelling story with Bruce questioning if he even should be Batman. Entertainment gets a 5. It is just so much fun seeing Mr. Freeze and Batman bounce off each other, and Clancy Brown is so much fun. Importance also gets a 5. It is so freaking important. We finally get to see Bruce Wayne's parents in this, and it's a defining character moment for Bruce. You should definitely go and see this. With that, we are done for the day as we finish the 5 episodes, but I am totally looking at the next 5 episodes to show you why this series is great. I'm going to finish all of season 1. If you like this, I'm going to go up to season 2 and go through the whole series. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.